tears are filling up their glasses. No expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Children waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. And to feel the way that every
GLE, line of demarcation, bang, bang, crash. Now, let's put below the line, which again is the area of the knowns, remember? Let's put a big mass of disorganized stuff, and that disorganized stuff is human thought. You would be amazed the depth of disorganization that you find in it when you view it from another perspective. That radiates out, wham, 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 with like that. And eternal M field comes down through here like this and radiates through there. Now, a funny thing has happened on the way to the store, as it were, where we, us, how and why did we get here? This is the thing that is a subject of great curiosity, to say the least. Well, let's take a typical one, but not the most important one. Here, we are moving along here, and boing, we hit that part of that radiation, and we smell it, taste it. What's that? So we move in a little lever over here to another, and we get another taste of it. You say, you know, that's real interesting. I wonder what that is and what that's like. So you're trying to figure a way where you can move in here because it's getting pretty strong stuff and sticky and this kind of thing. So you're very cautious. And at that particular moment, as you're contemplating, you're perceiving all this in here with great curiosity. All of a sudden, this big man appeared. It's what do you want? And you say, oh, well, what's that down there? He says, that's humans. And you say, well, can I go closer? And he says, well, not unless you be human. You say, well, I'll be human. He says, you what? He says, well, I'd like to be human. And he says, well, I suppose you could if you really wanted to. And you say, well, how do I do it? He says, the first thing you have to do in order to be human, you say, oh, don't misunderstand. I just want to get a taste, a sample, and zoom in and zoom out. That's all. I don't want to stay there. Oh, no, I wouldn't think of staying there. That's just a taste. You know, just a little sip. And then looks at you and says, yes, I understand. So what you do in that process, he says, the first thing that you need to do in order to be human is recognize that time-space exists. You say, well, somehow I perceive it. There it is. He says, well, what you perceive is only part of it. There's a lot more to it than that. He says, well, you say, well, I'll take my chances. He says, well, the other part is that you have to recognize that when you become human, that you have an important thing you must do in order to be human. You say, oh, what's that? He says, well, you have to have shut off all of your present memory and your present self. Otherwise, you can't generate this human consciousness. You say, oh, sure, I can pick it up when I get out. And he says, yeah. And he says the other thing is that you are really on your own, because that's what that is down there, is that people are on their own. Those who come in and become human make supposedly their own decisions. He said, oh, I'll make my own decisions. He said, yeah. So he said, now, if you really want, we can set it up. You say, oh, sure, I could go. He says, all right, first thing you got to do is, what do you want? Do you want to be male or female? And you look and say, what's that? He says, never mind. He says, can I select for you? Oh, yeah, you tell me which way. All right, fine. He says, the next thing is that you have to make a decision of where you want your entry point is. And he says, that's a decision that you have to make, because there are kind of problems. He says, for example, on Park Avenue in New York, there's a wait list line, a long wait list line to get there. Can't get Marin County, California, long line, that kind of stuff. And he says, Beverly Hills, almost impossible. But he says, we got plenty of fast takers, say in Africa, instant service, you get in right away. South America, the same thing, easy, no problem. And he says, and then I can just really rig it. And you say, well, that first one it sounds pretty interesting, but you say it's waitlisted. He says, yeah, Park Avenue, forget this. Yes, I can get you in, as a matter of fact, pretty quickly. Just right now, just wait and see. You say, that's fine, you're right. He says, all right, you got to be careful now. Remember, you're on your own. He says, oh, I can make it. And you go, bang. And at that bang, you look very closely. If one were there, and they would see a little newborn baby squalling and screaming, not hearing the screams to let me out of here, but just a screaming baby, newly born, lying in the broken glass, the garbage, and the dust and the dirt on the landing of a fifth floor walk-up in the Bronx, while the 13-year-old mother, having just given birth, is hurrying down the stairs to get away. And so one begins life here. You go through that life process, and the symbology have been 100,000 years ago. The whole symbology is still the same. You make your exit, and you start out again. Now, originally, your intent was to take your escape velocity and go on out and continue wherever you were intending to go or whatever you intended to do. But right about here somewhere, you begin to bend a little bit. The reason is that as you made this process through here in what we call physical life, you picked up a greater load factor than you realized. Unconsciously, you picked up that load factor, and you had friction, which slowed you up. The combination of those two is expressed in the bending of that, where you, no one else, no law, nothing else, makes the decision when you said, how many times, I got to go back. It's just something I wanted to do, and I didn't get a chance to do it. I wanted to have 5 children instead of 2, and I got to go back and have 3 more children, or some such thing. Or I never got to drink alcohol. I'd like to go back and drink some booze. Whatever the reason. And you say, oh, just say to yourself, just once, that's all, and then I'll go on my way. And so you begin that turn to make just once more, one little more run, just one more for the road or whatever. And at that moment, that decision, which was yours and no one else's, no law, no rule, just you lost your escape velocity. There's a word for that, which I probably have already used, that fits it very, very accurately. And that word is, we all have become human junkies. We're addicted to being human and the human experience. experience. Whether that was a part of the original design, you can have your own conjecture about that.